bit if I told you, but it's windy as hell again today, just like last week. So I get one day a week where I get to go fishing, and anybody who fishes, you could totally vouch for me on this one that it was beautiful all week. So you sit there all week inside at work and just watching the beautiful weather, and then all of a sudden the one day a week that I do have to go fishing, unfortunately it blows up. That's pretty typical for my experience anyway. So yeah, pretty windy today. I'll show you some video of that. And I was gonna take the little boat out. I got a little 14-foot McKee craft that I love, and I was just saying, all right, well, maybe we'll just run down the river, and which we like to do, and maybe we'll just do some inshore fishing. But then the morning kind of got away from me. We were cleaning the house, and we didn't, trying to get ready for the next week's worth of work and grocery shopping and all that stuff. So it got to be a little bit too late. So I think today what we're gonna do is we're gonna go out and hopefully do a little bass fishing in the neighborhood. Bass fishing has never really been my thing. I just never really got into it. I was very fortunate growing up with a dad who would take me offshore fishing, and for those of you who do offshore fishing or offshore fish, then you'll probably agree with me that catching a 4-pound bass is nothing compared to a 40-pound dolphin or a sailfish. So the flip side of the coin, however, though, is that it's never too rough to go bass fishing. So I've started getting into it a little bit more, certainly more inshore fishing, snook fishing, and that sort of thing. I've been doing a lot more of that recently than I did when I was growing up, but partly because I love that McKee craft. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, I decided that it's kind of windy today, and maybe we'll just take the kids up and we'll ride our bikes up to the lake and do a little fishing. So I'm pretty guilty of enjoying spending my money on fishing stuff, and my wife probably would vouch for that. So I went up to the store here and I said, well, let's try something a little bit different. So I picked up a couple of new lures here. So the first one is MirrOlure Top Dog, but this is a Top Pup, which is the miniature version. There's the Top Dog Junior, and then Top Pup. They're all a little bit different, kind of different action, but the biggest difference is obviously the Top Pup is a smaller lure. We're fishing for bass. I never really got into bass fishing, like I said earlier, so I haven't experimented with topwater stuff for bass, but it's coming up on lower light conditions, and typically topwater stuff does better when you're fishing in lower light conditions, sunrise and sunset. We're gonna start getting into the afternoon kind of lower light. It's only February right now, so we don't have as much sunlight as we typically would. The other thing, which I have had a lot of experience with, is a diving plug. That's a bomber diving plug, and it's kind of a deeper, it's the fat-free fingerling. So anyway, so that's the new bomber diver. And then of course MirrOlure Sea Eyes. I just kind of picked a sort of like a shad pattern, and those do pretty well. It's a smaller version, and again, for bass fishing, it's a suspending lure, so it kind of stays in the middle of the water column. But then I also cheated a little bit, and I got a dozen shiners because my kids don't have as much patience as I do, and I'll sit out there all day and not catch a fish and not care so much about it, but my kids are not the same. So shiners, for those of you who are familiar with bass fishing, it's kind of like cheating. We got this weird thing in our lake, though, in the neighborhood. So I grew up in this neighborhood, and I've been fishing in this lake for 20 years or so. And it's a weird situation where you catch one fish and you catch one really quick, and then all of a sudden you won't get another bite the whole rest of the day. So you have to move to a different part of the lake. So we'll see if that's our experience today. I kind of have a theory about that. They've done a lot of research on sharks. When sharks are attacked or injured, then all the other sharks will kind of go away from the area because they release a chemical when they're injured. And so like white shark attacks over in California, when the white shark is killed by an orca, then all the other white sharks who were tagged, satellite tagged, they'll travel away from the area immediately for several weeks. So I kind of think that's what goes on in our lake. I don't know. I don't have any proof for it, but in my gut, that's sort of what I experienced. So anyway, hopefully we'll have a little fun. We're gonna ride our bikes, and the weather is overall pretty nice, except for being super windy. So we'll see what we can come up with. You're funny. All right, so we're gonna start off with 2 shiners here, and then hopefully, I don't know how fish eat these things. They're so slippery and hard to catch. But start off with 2 shiners.
What about those stick fishies?
All right. And I like to take shiners, and I like to smack them on the ground a couple of times. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. And then I like to go from the bottom lip up.
Dad.
Yes, sir.
What about when Michael Cole says the dick fish? You could get one for
the slippery dick?
A slippery dick.
And he wanted
Really?
and he wanted one for the tank.
Sadly, that didn't happen.
Yeah, good thing.
Chase, come on, dude.
It's an accident. Shiner is flying.
All right, so we made about 15 minutes and we've already lost one of the kids. He's going to his grandparents' house, going to see Ema and Pop. So that was good. That was fun. We've lost effectively like 9 of the dozen shiners because they flew off the hook. The kids are learning how to hook them. This is, I guess it's the price you pay for a learning experience. So we'll keep plugging away.
Should I be taking a picture?
We could take pictures off the camera, off the video.
First, catch of the day belongs to me.
Nice, Michael.
Yeah. Ooh, ooh. Dad, can you do exactly what you just did? That really helped. And then I did one of those and boom.
Very much.
My first bass of the day. At least a foot long, maybe. Jeez, it feels so much heavier than.
This guy's been taunting me here for a while. There's a bass here. It's a little bass. You know, maybe a pound on a good day. But you can see that white spot swimming around there. He's got a big lesion on the side of his body, and it looks to me like maybe he got whacked by a bigger bass. And it doesn't look like it's that old, it's pretty fresh. He's definitely got some meat coming out there. There he is, showing in the sun. And he's been just kind of sitting there, so he's not a huge bass by any means, but he's definitely big enough that if he got whacked by, yeah, you see his pectoral fins there, his pectoral fins are pretty shredded up too, so if he got hit by a bigger bass, I'd like to see the bass that tore him up. So since I'm totally positive that 95% of the people that watch this video are going to have my last name, I don't think it needs much of an introduction. But so the guy with us, Luke, he lives 2 doors down from us, and he's super good friends with my boys. They do everything together. So that's his intro. So it looks like the mirror lure caught our first fish, and I'm hoping that the one fish curse of Lake Danforth doesn't get us again, because right now we're having a little trouble hooking back up. So so I forgot to mention, you know, when I bought these shiners and these lures today, I went to a place that used to be called Gordo's, and it was called Gordo's. I don't think the owner's name was actually Gordon. I think it was just because he was like one of the fattest people that you ever meet in your entire life. So Gordo was a good nickname either way for him. But so he, you know, we used to joke around all the time every time we go in there that he was the crabbiest person in the world. He was not very friendly at all, which is a peculiar business model for somebody who owns a small business. But we went anyway because that's the only place around here to buy shiners. So it's been sold. I think Gordo's gone. He's been gone many years, and but he was actually okay once he got to know you, but he wasn't super inviting. But I went in there all the time, so he's okay to me, you know, every time we went in there. So we're just, if you can't tell, it is super windy out here. So I was just working with the boys on their casting technique about keeping the lure down under the wind. If you cast up in the air, the lure is going to take off on you. So that's what we're working on, and hopefully we can pull home another fish to barely video. And I think we got Michael's grandma, Ima. She's bringing some McDonald's for us. So that's the most eventful this day is going to be so far. So another kind of mediocre day. It was actually a really nice day, just not a heck of a lot of fish. But I thought, since we have a little extra time, because I was bass fishing, my cleanup is considerably less than it normally is, I thought maybe we'd take a minute to talk about tackle here. So same tackle this week as you saw last week. We did an inshore trip because I use the same things for, you know, for snook and whatever else we're fishing for. I use the same things for bass. I don't have special bass stuff because I don't care that much about bass fishing. So anyway, one of the things that I especially like about light tackle fishing is that this is all I bring. So I bring a backpack. That's a Calcutta backpack. It's pretty cheap, and I just put some trays inside. I'm pretty good about keeping it stocked with lures and all sorts of rattling stuff and floats and stuff like that. But the reason I really like that is because I don't have to bring a whole hell of a lot when I go inshore fishing, because it's everything is, you know, considerably smaller than the lures that I bring for offshore fishing and stuff like that. Also, you know, sometimes we do get out of the boat and walk through the mangroves or down the riverbed or whatever, and I can just bring that with me. But it's especially nice when we're bass fishing because I'll just throw it on my backpack on, and then I'll ride the bike. You know, with respect to inshore stuff, there are people with much nicer equipment than I have, much more expensive equipment. But this is fine for me. I don't have to break the bank. My offshore equipment is, you know, some of the stuff that we have is thousands of dollars. But for the inshore stuff, I don't care that much. You know, if I catch a snook or if I don't catch a snook or a tarpon, I don't really care. Some guys go nuts over it. It's just not really my bag. But So I tend to stay in the pen category for reels because some of the more expensive redfish tournament grade Shimano's are very, very expensive, and they're just way beyond what I need, because if I go snook fishing in the river, I don't need a hell of a lot. I do use braid, however, for inshore fishing, because sometimes the bite is a little bit lighter and braid is way more sensitive. Some of the stuff you saw today was in the the pen class, like pen battle. We also, one of my favorites is the pen Fierce 2. This is a great reel. It's a very inexpensive reel compared, well, nothing for fishing is inexpensive, but comparatively it's inexpensive. And that's on a black tip rod. I do like black tip rods, but probably my favorite rod is the Offshore Angler Redfish. This is a very inexpensive rod, and it's made by Bass Pro Shops. You know, I'm sure it's made in China somewhere, but you know, it actually is a really pretty good quality rod for the price. The other thing you're going to notice is that the rods that I use, I prefer cork butts, and you'll see them both. But for the light tackle, I prefer to have a cork butt to the rod as opposed to like the foam. I just think it's more comfortable. I think it's lighter, and I think it holds up better and it washes off better. So if I got like fish scales in my hand, and then I'll go and grab the rod, or I'll even use these same rods for reef fishing if we're catching some, you know, mangrove snapper on the reef or yellowtail, I'll use these same rods. So sometimes I get squid on them, so they hose off better. I just kind of like them better. So anyway, I figure we'll take a minute and just kind of talk about that. It's still early, and it is Sunday, so I think me and the boys are maybe going to go in the pool. Maybe we'll throw a little footage of that in there too. And that's it. So hopefully we'll have something a little bit more eventful for you guys next week.